Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. Tonight we have another great show with another great guest. That will be Mr. Moe Grace. He is going to be discussing mental health. Let me tell you guys a little bit about Moe. Meet the real life superhero, Moe Grace, who embodies the characters, this enhancing book, Drago and Spirit and Dragonfly. Mo has always felt a special bond with the dragonfly, and this connection has guided his life's journey. But Mo is not just any person. He's a Navy veteran, mentor, community advocate, and clinical social worker. Mo's heart overflows with a passion for helping people grow in life. He knows that love, kindness, and respect are the magical keys that unlock the world of possibilities. By treating others with these superpowers, we can make the world a brighter and better place. But there's more to the story. Mo understands the secrets to being a hero in your own life. It's the balance of mind, body, and spirit. Your mind is a treasure chest full of dreams and wisdom. Your body is a remarkable machine that needs care, and your spirit is the shining light that makes you unique. With love, kindness, respect, and a balanced mind, body, and spirit, you can be just like Mo Grace. You'll be ready to conquer the world and accomplish all the important things in your life. So join Mo, Drago, and Spirit the Dragonfly on their incredible adventures. Together, you'll discover the tragic of growth, the power of love, and the kindness, and the importance of taking care of your heart, body, and spirit. Welcome to the world of Mo Grace, where you learn how to be a superhero in your own. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you all to Mo Grace, please.
Hey,
Well,
how you doing, everybody? Hey, Charles, how are you?
hey, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for asking. I'm glad to
Well,
be here.
is there anything that you'd like to add to that wonderful bio that I just read?
I think that it kind of speaks a lot to, I think the biggest part again is how are we treating one another, really like how are we showing up as people. So my hope for, people around the world is that they kind of are being more mindful about literally like how are you showing up, one for yourself and how are you showing up for other people. Hmm.
So we're gonna dive into this, into some of the aspects of why you're here with the mental health. Can you tell us how did you get started working in the mental health profession?
So initially I was in the military and in the Navy, and so being in the Navy, I worked in mortuary affairs. When we work in the mortuary affairs, I saw a lot of, bodies coming back when I post 9/11. And so, also I had a lot of my troops that, I was in charge of, was watching where they were going to, the assignments of being like deployed and coming back and having really hard times of being able to manage, you know, coming back, really just adjusting. And so, of course, talking with them and helping them to navigate through, some of those things of family dynamics, which, they were struggling with, it led me to wanting to do something that was bigger than me, which is, again, I got out the military. I was like, what did I want to do? And I wanted to be a therapist. So I wanted to be able to do therapy with people to help them navigate trauma. Mhm.
Wow. So in that case, when you say you got to see all those bodies coming back and so forth, uh, did you at that time see a lot of people with PTSD, or did you yourself have some form of PTSD?
So yeah, I saw where a lot of people, again, when you talking about shell shock, a lot of people don't even know what that is. A lot of times you say PTSD, automatically they go to veterans, you're crazy, something wrong with you, when something's not necessarily wrong with you. So this is, this is this negative stereotype, one, military, and then two, outside the military for people and their association or their understanding of what mental health is. Everything is about somebody being crazy, but it's not necessarily true. So for myself, seeing bodies come back, you become numb and you only know what you know. So it's kind of like, but I think that's for a lot of people when you exhibit or deal with trauma, it's very quick to go to, um, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses to where now you are navigating, in flight mode. It's about the mission. See what I'm saying? So your focus is the mission, and to get emotionally connected to anything with that, you don't have time because people lose their lives when you begin to deviate from what the mission is. So I think for a lot of people, the struggle becomes, being able to deviate from the expected, which is the mission. And then when you come home, you're getting flooded with all these emotions because now you want a stationary space to be able to process some of this stuff, and it becomes overwhelming. So most people are looking forward to get back to the mission so they can escape having to deal with one's emotion. So for myself, I didn't really correlate a lot of that stuff because again, it was pretty much numb, flight, move forward, do what you got to do. Whatever the mission is, the focus is the mission. So of course when I went to Howard and when I went to school for social work, they encourage you to go to therapy. I had been to therapy before, but this is different. So me going this time was more or less about really digging deep into some of the things that childhood stuff that you don't see that correlates with military stuff, because patterns and learned behavior are the things that navigate how we operate, and those are based on our experiences. So I just have found that I was on this journey, and so it was a great journey because it opened me up to being able to understand people from a different lens.
So, can you share a pivotal moment in your journey with mental health, with mental health advocacy that shaped your perspective?
um there's so many. As far as me becoming a clinician, like after military, you talking about while I was in?
Well, just in your journey in general.
I think the pivotal moment for me in my journey with dealing with mental health was recognizing how family trauma, or recognizing how trauma that you have from relationships and stuff like that, how those things are easily correlated with just everyday aspects of your life. So it's kind of like an aha moment when I realized that patterns and learned behavior is a real thing, but how do these things intersect with our daily lives or everything that we do? When you recognize the patterns, then you have a choice on how you're going to do something different. I think that was the biggest aha moment for me, was like recognizing certain patterns and how I was showing up. Which is why I keep talking about how are we as people showing up. We're not perfect, we're fallible, but on the opposite end of that, what are we doing that's different in our change process?
So, what inspired you to become involved in mental health advocacy, particularly within the minority communities?
Seeing how it was affecting the kids. When I first came into social work, we have to do our internships, and I did internships at schools, and I did internships in the actual community. So like doing community work, going into the community, assessing needs, and trying to give people within our community things that they needed. Community support worker at that point. And so as a social worker, so it's like when you go into the community, you begin to see how people are living, what their daily struggles are. Um, it just gives you just a different look. I mean, people make all these assumptions, from the media, like, oh, people can change, they can do whatever it is they want to do, go get a job. You don't. If you come up and you're raised underneath a certain type of environment, that's all you know. So it goes back to the patterns and learned behavior of what you know. To break that, to do something different means to trust in something different. And so within, I feel, our minority communities, there's not a lot of trust in doing something different. And then some get complacent because that's what they know. So it's easier to go with that. So I just found myself, dealing with kids and families. Yeah, I could help a kid, do therapy with him, get him through whatever I had to get him through. But the real issue was the family or the system. And the system is not just a family system. You have the community, you have the schools, you have everything that that child intersects with is a system. And a lot of times the issue becomes the system because the system becomes complacent in how it operates. And could be a job. I mean, it is a system. So I find that, systems are not really willing to change. They pretty much get grounded in operating on what they know. People, same premise. They get grounded in operating on what they know. And it has to be the intention of wanting to do something that's different.
So, just with that being said, like, what are some of the things without being, and hopefully it's not something that's graphic or whatever have you, but what are some of the things that you have seen
In regards just in general military, outside of military.
outside military when you started working into mental health and you were talking about how you had to go and do the visits and things of that nature? What are some of the things that you saw that helped push you into advocacy in the minority communities?
Seeing where like kids were, prime example would be like seeing sometimes with kids that I was doing therapy with and having to go into the homes to do like an assessment to see how things were functioning. Some of these situations where they were coming into dealing with being in abusive situations where parents are getting frustrated because, kids doing something, but kids are just being like a kid, but them just not having the tools to be able to just have regular communication or just to be able to engage and, with love, kindness, respect, not just for self, but just for your child. You know what I'm saying? Like how you showing up with this kid, so um yelling at your kid, you know what I'm saying? Or, everything becomes going to the violence of doing something because you don't know how to deal with it. So it's like, I think for us as a community, we go automatically to anger. That is our thing that we go to. And based on that anger, it comes out in certain types of ways. But is that healthy ways to deal with our stuff? But you only know what you know. So, and not saying it's cookie cutters, and I always tell people too, it's not about fixing you because I feel people are not broken toys. So it's like you don't need to be fixed. The thing is, what do you learn from it? How do you grow from it? Because again, we're not meant to be picture perfect. You learn from generation. That stuff is passed down, but do we acknowledge it and do we see that for what it is? So
Hmm. Now, that's interesting because, most people, at least I know some that are about the same age as myself, pretty much feel like if they heard it from grandmother, grandfather, or mother and fathers when they were little kids, that this is the way to do it. And some never break that cycle. So, with that cycle, does that cycle become toxic and creating the trauma?
yeah, it can become toxic and actually create, more trauma. Because like I said, you only know what you know. So you may not look at it that you are projecting and displacing these things onto somebody else because in your mind, what you saw, that was your norm. You know what I'm saying? So how could somebody fault somebody for a norm that you grew up under? That's your norm. So someone telling you something that you don't have to do it that way. You don't have to stick your fire. You don't have to stick your hand inside the fire to realize that it's going to burn you. You can pretty much assess it just by having your hand hover over the fire to discern that it may burn you. So it's just changing mindset, so and helping people to realize that it's okay to change those mindsets. It's okay to not to take yourself out of the box. I feel like a lot of us, we put ourselves into these boxes of thought and how we think we should show up. And that's based off our experiences, but doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be true. That's the great thing about having a different perspective. So at that point, you get to explore that to see if it's something that may actually really work for you.
So, from a therapeutic perspective, is it always something to try to help people to learn to adjust and to change, especially if there's bad habits or patterns? Or do you try to have them find a way to rationalize that?
Well, I think the first part is, when meeting with, when not times when I'm meeting with people, it's just again meeting them where they are, and discussion of exploring what the thing is that brings them into therapy. This is again giving another perspective as to, have you ever thought about maybe this may be something that may have been easier, better than the approach that you did that was here. And a lot of times, given that, it's like I never thought of it that like that, like that. And a lot of times we don't, because I feel a lot of people are reactive. They're not proactive. A lot of organizations are reactive. It's not proactive. And even if you are hearing it, and even if I was to drop a seed, doesn't necessarily mean that that person's going to take what I'm giving them and put it into action. You know, Dealing with some of my veterans that I was seeing that I see, some of them have been going to places like vet centers forever, and they're just stuck in their ways. Some of them are open, and some of them take the tools and they take those particular tools and they use them. Like again, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink. Or you may have some people that use particular tools and it works, but then what do? You revert back to what you know because it's comfortable. So I think a lot of times people just they want to be comfortable. It's
Mm.
hard to change is challenging. So it's like, am I gonna really put myself through this thing that it's gonna be hard, but is it really that it's hard, or is it just something that's uncomfortable? I feel that most people are fearful of being uncomfortable.
Mm. Now that leaves a lot to the mind, but I think I need to circle back on that one because that was I think that's a key factor.
Hmm.
Can you tell me how do you envision the future of mental health awareness and support, especially considering the unique challenges faced by marginalized groups?
How do I envision it? I envision it from a standpoint is that people are no longer fearful of it. As when I say that people are no longer fearful of it, meaning that the word mental health and the context in which they view it, them not being fearful of that word, that it automatically means something bad. So if we can, I feel if the idea of what mental health is can be restructured or shifted or changed and be more receptive and being open to that it's not a bad thing, that we go to all these other things, you're gonna pray it away, we're gonna do all these different things within the culture, to deal with it, which is not necessarily dealing with the issue. So I think that to debunk and to destigmatize mental health, I think that's the first thing, what I'm saying, that I think for the most part is what people are trying to do. And people are becoming a little more receptive to the idea of mental health since COVID-19. But I think that that's like the forefront. One of the hardest things is just that, because I still got people walking around talking about people crazy. I'm like, gotta stop saying that. Because the more you say those things, the more you are empowering the stigma of, nah, I'm not trying to go do that, because that means now I got this label. Ain't nobody trying to have this label. It's another label. I'm black, I'm a minority, whatever the particular label that's like attached, what I'm saying? Now it's an additional thing that now I wear. But why do we give so much power to something that is a label that does not define who you are?
So are you saying that you envision the future of mental health as just being accepted, by most, or and with the process of being accepted, you think that more people are going to start to seek help?
Yeah, I believe, yeah, the acceptance, but I think the words you've been using, acceptance, I think normalizing it, that it's normal, that it's okay for one to go and seek mental health, no different than you do your own health, right? Mental health and health are actually, no, like it's all health, mind, body, spirit balance. Or mind is a whole health idea of how one is, showing up in the world. You know what I'm saying? So if you're taking care of yourself whole health wise, then you're a better product of of like the environment. So I think we get more people to look at it as a whole health perspective then yeah, that would be additional to shifting the mindset of how they may be viewing mental health.
So do you foresee here in the future that that we'll have uh, like a one size fit all system where it'll be adults, children, and everybody alike doing just one thing, or do you think they're going to keep it broken up the way it is, and also kind of like capitalize and make it a whole lot better going into the future, where therapy is something that everybody will probably just have?
Um, I'm not really sure what that will look like. I know now currently the whole health model is already being utilized, meaning that as far as looking at the basic hierarchy of needs, right? But also not just the basic hierarchy of needs, but also looking at the balance pieces of all these things that are intersected that make you who you are. Um, so they've been proposing this for a while. We've been talking about it for a while and integrating it, into healthcare systems, what I'm saying, as to looking at the whole person, right? So, but um, as it looks like in one particular, like going into a hospital in one particular area, like takes care of all these things. I think they're already trying to do that, to merge that as an overall whole health piece. But I still feel they will always be separate in my mind because it's separate things that people have to work on.
So, what advice would you give to individuals who are struggling with their mental health but are hesitant to seek help?
It's okay not to be okay.
Mm.
That'll be one thing I would like to say is that it's okay to not to be okay. We are not picture perfect, so we're not meant to be perfect. So this idea of people's images, ideas of what they think something that is perfect, right?
Right.
We align and say that it's like going to school. I do everything I'm supposed to do in school. I come home, but my whole world is chaos. My room is chaos. I'm not organized with stuff. But what I project into the world is picture perfect. I come to school, I'm pristine. I do the things I'm supposed to do, but then on the opposite in your life, that's not what you did. They just don't align. So I think that if more people are more open to being honest with themselves as to how they may not align with these things and how they show up within their whole health or how they just show up in general, it's one step towards working on themselves, meaning that the acceptance of that, one, and making a choice with intention to do something that's different.
So, can you discuss any innovative approaches or initiatives you've been a part of to destigmatize mental illness and promote wellness?
Um, Initiatives that currently right now I'm actually promoting this piece about hope. The hope, just in general, mind, body, spirit balance, the hope in just being able to make it to another day. The hope that the thing that you may view as being this heavy or something that you can't do, that actually you can. I mean, it's nothing really limiting you but you. So it's just a hope and trusting in self. So it's like hope is enveloped in many different things, but that's one thing. So that's my whole push is that, give people being hopeful of, regardless of what's happening around you. The only person you have control over is you. So if you have you have the hope within self, the spirit of hope within you, there's nothing really to kind of prevent you from being able to move forward and being able to, grow in a healthy way. As far as for being involved with different, things, again, as a social worker, everything is about, and me being a change agent, it's all about change. It's like, again, it's about being involved, whether it be through helping people understand about working out, the encouragement about meditation, things like yoga. It's about, mind, body, spirit balance. Some people are religious, some people are spiritual, but, being in tune to what those things are. So I think just me being involved in people's lives and within groups to help them understand how these things can be beneficial for them. And it has helped a lot of different people to be able to find semblance of balance within self to show up differently.
So, how do you see mental health? As far as like, let's just kind of like segregate it a little bit,
Hmm.
because and just think about the underserved communities, minority communities that we're speaking of. Do you think that, over this period of time, let's say within the next 15 to 20 years, that we'll see more whole health that would be, what do you call it, that would actually bring about more healthy, happier, longer living people?
Possibly. The reason why I say possibly because I'm still thinking about the foundation of what people are dealing with, right? I'm talking about marginalized communities are struggling with things like keeping their lights on, get food in the house. You got gas prices going up. They're dealing with their hierarchy of needs, and if you can't give people the basics of the hierarchy of needs, how really well would they be receptive to? Now I need to work on this particular thing over here. I think for a lot of times within the marginalized community, they're dealing with how do I get through this day to day. But it's not just dealing with marginalized communities. You can think about it for veterans. The veterans that I see, when they come in, it's about a core issue of something that is a basic hierarchy of need. I need housing. I need food. I need money for transportation to get to point A to point B.
Mhm.
Once you deal with those particular things, now we can talk about how this is affecting my mental health. But until you don't deal with the foundational pieces and how can one be receptive to something that would be beneficial to them. Because again, that's part of the building trust piece is like, I'm trusting you to help me to get this thing that like I need. And based on that, okay, since you're able to do this, and I can trust in you that what you're saying about the other things is something that will help me to maintain this thing that like I received, that brought put me back on my feet, which helped me to shift my perspective of how I may be looking at something. So I think it's just the foundational hierarchy of needs. It's like the first thing. So
What drives your passion for community involvement, and how do you prioritize your various commitments?
um, what drives my piece for like community involvement, I would have to say, is um, it's the military for the most part. That's like the main thing for me. Military and schools that I went to, and based on what they stood for, is it was really like the drivers. But in the military, I'd be like to say like the first, because as a first moment of me joining to get back to a part of service, and in that we learned that community is important, servitude is important within the community. So, back then when I did serve in the military, also still to this day, my thing was about mentorship. How do you go in? How do you give mentorship? How do you empower, people? How do you give them hope that, we all come from, a lot of us come from like marginalized communities. So it's kind of like, it shows people that you can come from something doesn't mean that's to dictate who you are. It's still a part of you, but you can grow and do different things. So just empowerment, let people know that, being relatable, that everybody has their struggles, but don't let the struggles be the thing that holds you back from your greatest potential.
That is true. Could you share a specific project or initiative you've spearheaded within the community that you're particularly proud of?
Um, Particular project. I'm not sure, like, I would say the spirit of hope. That's like this current initiative. I mean, the spirit of hope is a thing for me that I'm excited about to spearhead within the community, which is a wraparound dealing with, mental health, getting kids access to, things outside of the community and letting them know that there's hope outside of that, like STEM pieces. Um, yeah, I think that's like the one of the things is, working with other community partners is the other thing with, again, giving the community like wraparound things where we're all interconnected to do something for the greater good and within this change process. So, yeah.
So, does collaboration play a part of what you do within the community?
Yes, it does. Because I feel like if you don't have the partnerships, then how do you all grow? Or how do you really give like the best support to like the community? It's not, can be. I don't feel it can never be a one man show because the community is large, and with it being, communities being large, you just it needs so much more. So each person has a is a pillar, and those pillars are we look at as pillars of strength that empower like the community in general, whether it be a church, whether it be other community partners that are helping in different types of ways, whether it be through mental health, whether through access to services, whether it be to funds and money, whether it's with housing, all this stuff intersected helps within the empowerment for like the community, and also advocacy for those who are unable to advocate for themselves.
How do you foster collaboration and build trust among diverse community stakeholders?
You say, how do you build it?
How do you foster collaboration and build trust among diverse community stakeholders?
I think starters with, you know, one presenting what it is that you're bringing to the table that's, within the collaboration. I think exploring exactly how you both can, how it could be beneficial to be able to give the community exactly what it needs. So it's a conversation. I think it's like in any type of, relationship building, it is a conversation about one understanding what the particular stakeholders on what they're doing, also exploring what possible expectations are, and seeing how you coming together, how those things can be beneficial for like the collective whole.
So, but when you do these collaborations, though, and you're building the trust in the community, I mean, do you think it's best to do it like by sections, or just bring everybody together and everybody carry out the mission?
Um, it's basically I think I'm doing it by section, you know, because again, I think prime example, DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, it's like it's big. Maryland within itself is huge. So it will never be like everybody coming together and one it's sections of people that come together to to help a specific area of location of like community that will benefit from that help. But it does take a village, as they say, to be able one to raise a child. But I think it also takes a village in order to be able to help and empower a community.
Wow. So in your view, what are the most pressing issues facing underserved communities today, and how can individuals contribute to positive change?
Man, I think the most one of the pressing issues happening right now is dealing with our kids and dealing with gun violence and stealing of cars and just the blatant disrespect for adults and for people and the lack of empathy. I think that is a serious issue right now. The biggest part is the empathy for me. It's like there is no empathy.
So,
Like,
so the
it's the truth. I mean,
young folk just running wild.
they running buck wild. They lost their minds. Like they doing random crazy stuff. You have no in my mind I look like, why would you get onto a bus and do something to get onto a bus, you blatantly are smoking pot, you're doing this in front of your elders, you know what I'm saying? People that could be your grandfather, your great grandfather, your great grandmother, and you think that's okay, and you have no regards for like the behavior. It's like it's normalized that that this is okay. It's like you're not thinking about nobody's health, you're not thinking about impact, and God forbid somebody will put in their mouth and say something to you because it's going to be a problem. But that means accountability. That means that you're not taking accountability for how you, as a young person, is showing up in the world based on your entitlement. And it has an impact. And it makes people afraid. And now people don't trust you. And now they're looking at you like you're the threat. But you don't want to be looked at as a threat, but that's how you present. So
Mhm.
it's about when, the accountability of how young people are showing up. They are our future, they are our legacy in a sense. Well, I say legacy meaning that they have the opportunity to create their own legacy, but they are the future like advocates and things like that that will pick up the mantle to fight for advocacy and what's right. But if you don't see these things as being a problem, how you're showing up, then how can you pick up any mantle, or how can you do anything towards social change if you yourself don't see that you need to change? That's my perspective.
But when you think about the accountability that you brought up, I mean, is there a role for the parents to play in this?
I feel that we have young people raising young people. So what type of accountability comes in play? Because now the other question becomes that now you got young people raising young people. What was the situation for their parents? Were they young when they had them too? So now we're talking about
Mhm.
generations of this behavior and these patterns.
Right.
So
People.
would it really be accountability if that's all you know? And are
Mhm.
you really open to another perspective, being that that's all that you know?
Mhm. Um, how do you balance your professional endeavors with your commitment to community service? And what strategies do you employ to avoid burnout?
I say that's all work in progress. Like I said, nobody's picture perfect. I really do try to take time to myself. I think that's really important. Um, a lot of times when I get home, I just like to decompress. So it's like, a lot of times I sit in silence, and that's a way for me to kind of help myself to decompress. I work out, I do meditation, um, I read. Sometimes I just listen to music. It's just, I gravitate towards anything that's going to kind of give me just balance one, but then also being able to disconnect in a healthy way. I journal, I write. It's another cathartic way for me to get stuff out. So those are the ways that I utilize to kind of give myself balance in the midst of everything that I'm doing at this current moment. And also make sure I can show up for my significant other too. So it's like it's a thing we're trying to balance. It's not always perfect, never will be, but I try to balance as much as I can. Mhm.
So, what does self care for you look like?
Self care for me looks like, again, working out. Self care for me looks like making sure I'm getting proper sleep. Self care looks like for me making sure I'm eating appropriately, the appropriate meals per day. Self care looks like for me mm, listening to my body when it tells me certain things. So when I need to take a break. Listen to my body when it tells me that I need to separate and maybe have just some time to myself. Um, Taking some time when knowing when I'm by saying you need to sit down somewhere. So just being very mindful about what my body and mind is telling me and taking heed to that because getting older, I ain't 23 anymore. So it's like, can't just do all the things that I used to do. And so body's like, you're tired, then go lay down. That's what I do. Go lay down.
Now I'm one, I got to tell you this. I always can come up and think about that, but when it comes down to it, it seems like I'm going to miss something. And so a lot of times there's been plenty of weeks where I haven't got proper sleep because it's like always having to do. And as you say, though, you can't do that. You got to take that break.
You do, because I mean, I normally tell people I use the analogy of an empty cup. And if you were to break the empty cup into thirds, mind, body, spirit, balance, right? If you break those things into thirds, right? So now you visually get to see that. Now you have the same cups off to the side. And as you're drinking that cup, imagine that that cup is now full and it's overflowing. It should overflow into the other cups, but if your cup is not flowing, then how can you give anything to the other things that you're responsible for? The first line of responsibility is to self. And so if you're not putting that oxygen mask on yourself, then how can you do all the things that you say you need to do? I thought it was something powerful that Chandra Rhimes said that when she did an Oprah Winfrey interview, and she said that, I realized that I could not do it all. And I felt real guilty when I could not attend my daughter's ballet recital. She had what's the name? Grey's Anatomy going on, and then she had How to Get Away with Murder going on at the same time. And her daughter's ballet recital, and she was, torn because she could not do all of it. And she was explaining to her daughter like she couldn't beat her, but it really hurt her heart. And when she said that, I was like, exactly, we can't do everything. Sometimes we just have to, own that we can't do everything, but also make sure we take time for ourselves.
Yeah, that I can tell you. You're absolutely right about that. You're absolutely right about that. Burning the candles on both ends just does not work.
Mm.
What motivated you go into entrepreneurship? Part about your illustrious career. What motivated you to venture into entrepreneurship, and how has your background in mental health advocacy influenced your approach?
Um, Me wanting to be a clinician. I've always wanted to work for myself. I have my own practice. I went into school, Howard School of Social Work. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to do therapy because I feel that, I did a lot of counseling and stuff with people, mentors, and with, the kids that I came in contact with through mentorship and through the kids that serving in the military with, so I already knew what I wanted to do, but I always knew that I wanted to have my own private practice. That was one of the things I wanted. Um, Never really knew if I wanted to have a group practice. I still that wasn't my initial. It's still not. Thing about having a group practice, and I commend all of my fellow therapists that have branched out, and that's the thing that they did. So I didn't feel that that was my actual calling for that. Now helping people, other people with, learning what they need to learn and, give them knowledge. Yet that is something that about education and training. But that wasn't a thing. But the nonprofit itself was something that was an addition. I thought there was a bigger calling for me just to be able to, as I looked at COVID-19 and seeing the impact that COVID-19 had, and just seeing how mean spirited and surly some people were treating one another, and just the cognitive dissonance going on. It's not it's not no rational thinking in any of it. And seeing the impact on kids, and I think the bigger part was seeing children that were now committing suicide because they couldn't handle it. They didn't have a space to be able to talk about the stuff, or the words really to formulate what they were experiencing, and been guilty a lot of times because, ain't nothing wrong with you. You suck it up. That's not the answer. Just like that means you just kind of took away that kid's voice. I mean, you can get that kid an opportunity to express really how he feels, and now something's wrong with the little boy because he's talking about his feelings. No, nothing's wrong with him. Something's wrong with you because you don't know how to do that. You know what I'm saying? And to express yourself in a healthy way. But it shouldn't come to the cost of losing a kid. It should not come at a cost for losing an adult. It
Mhm.
should not come at a cost for losing a lot of our veterans that have taken their lives because they felt overwhelmed because they just didn't have the outlet, or they just didn't have the capacity to be able to manage the thing in a healthy way. But we minimize it. And we use this negative negative talk of, they're crazy. It can be, you need to go talk and go to church and go deal with that. Everything gonna be for the church. Sometimes you're gonna have to do some real work.
Well, like as you mentioned, those things that influenced you, into your entrepreneurship life right now. Can you tell me this? When you wanted to start and have your own practice, did you like think it through where you prioritize what was going to possibly get you to the part of doing your nonprofit, or was it just were they all like here and you kind of like did a joining thing where they're just connected? How did that work out for you? How'd you get to that point?
So let's all give a couple of shout outs. I used to work at a spot called Basic Practicing, all black owned practice, and I had admiration for two people that owned it. One was Dr. LaGrange, and the other one I was also was a social worker, so they were co-owners of it. In that journey, I met um, some social workers, Lakeith Sutton, Ashley Robertson, um, and met, well, I'm going to blank on names right now. Tiffany was another one. Tiffany Cruz is another person. All of us were kind of talking about how we wanted to, get our own private practice. And so within that conversation, I think the first person that did it was Ashley. And so Ashley gave a lot of commemoration to her because she kind of was like helped me in the midst of doing it, and also the encouragement of that, because I think it was then Lakeith, then her, and then also Victor too. So it's like we all worked in the same practice. So I think a lot of it was based on community social workers empowerment, on us going ahead and doing the thing that we had vision for. And so based on that, that was how the private practice started. As far as for the spirit of hope, that came about more so because, like I said, based on that was a me initiative, because it's like I was just looking at everything that was happening, and I had still me paying out of pocket for them. Just everything I do is out of pocket for me, and so I was looking at things like book bag drives, things for the homeless. How do I show up within the community? How do I give hope? Um, and so based on the development of Spirit the Dragonfly, or the book itself and the characters, is what drove this whole thing even more about how I wanted to show up in the community in a different way. Because I've been living here in Southeast DC for 14 years. And so as I do show up in the community and doing different things, working at Martha's Table and doing different volunteer work, I just wanted to show up in a bigger way.
Okay. Can you walk us through one of your entrepreneurial ventures and discuss challenges you encountered along the way?
The biggest entrepreneurial one I'm gonna get to. So, um, the first one is when I did the book bag initiative. So I was doing this book bag initiative for giving book bags back to the kids going back to school. And I guess people thought it was a joke that, like, oh, you're not really doing this, and I'm asking for donations, and people are like, yeah, we're not trying to give no money towards it like that. So, that's what donations towards that, and towards two things: donations towards that, and also towards my book. They weren't trying to get no donations. So good. um, the second thing is this whole venture with this book. This has been a whole 3-year trial of seeing true colors with people. And
Mm.
so people have a tendency of giving you a whole lot of word vomit of expectations, what expectations and ideas of how they're going to show up for you. but their actions don't reflect anything with that. So I believe actions and words, they don't match, it ain't true. So you can't tell me on one end that you support me, but your actions do not reflect that. But I had somebody tell me something powerful yesterday. My expectations does not dictate the reality of how people are going to show up, and that is true. And sometimes also I have another person that I hold in regards. Carolyn Hutchison did a post, and she was talking about expressing what you want, and I thought that was powerful because a lot of times we don't tell people what we want. So I had to check myself. Do I really tell people what it is that I want from them? Or is it that my expectations of what I'm thinking that people how they should innately show up is a problem? Because in my mind, I'm thinking that support means like, comment, and share something. Support means you can buy something. Support means, many different things. But if I'm not being specific on what type of support that I'm asking for, is that a real thing and being a real issue? Um, or is it just something that people are not interested in? They don't want to show up in kind. So I'm still evaluating that.
Now that's actually interesting when you think about that because true enough support can mean a whole lot of things. But in this case, where we're speaking to your entrepreneurship, like I'm assuming that well, I shouldn't assume, but can I ask the people that you went to for the donations that you thought would have given donations did not give donations and did not come to the aid of the program? Wow.
I would say yeah, because the people that came to the aid of it were people I didn't expect them to do what they did. I'm very appreciative of what they did, and we're giving towards the end of it with for the book bags. But I did the book bags and special gifts for people. And somebody collect a group of people gave money once they found out what I did towards the next thing that I was about to do, which is kind of showing it, showing the same type of appreciation to the people over the program. Um, yeah, so it's kind of like that they get support in that way, and I appreciate that. And like I said, it's for us for and I get it. People ain't trying to give you no money towards something, especially if they not you have a write off,
Mhm.
and they're not trying to give you money towards something that they may not trust or believe in, and they're not trying to get their money. So I'm just like, that's the truth. So and I get it. You don't trust me, whatever it is that I'm doing, or you may not believe in what it is I'm doing, or you have your formulated your own. I wish I could read minds, but I can't. And I don't want to sit back and make assumptions on people either. I try to give people benefit of the doubt on how they choose to show up. At the end of the day, people are people, and I understand that. And I have to check myself on my expectations because a lot of times people expect me to show up a certain type of way, but they do not do it in kind. So I have to check myself with the expectation that I may be projecting onto people, even though they project those different types of expectations onto me.
Yep. Ooh boy. Now you know what? You said a whole mouthful there
It's
because
the truth. That's all I can give.
I can relate to that. I can relate to that. 500%. Not 100, but 500%. That is, oh boy, that's something. But I think is what it sounds like to me, and this is my opinion, is that through all of that, you still had the wherewithal to carry on and do what you were going to do anyway, and you still managed to succeed. So to those people, how do they come to you now?
Someone tell me what is a level of success? Like, what does that look like? I mean, what does that really look like? We talk about like success. I would say yes, I'm successful because I spent 20 years. I get 20 years in the Navy, and I got out and I retired, and I'm proud of my service that I gave to my country. Yes, that I succeeded in because I didn't think I was going to make the 20 years. I literally had a 5-year plan to go into the military and get out. If it wasn't for one of my senior chiefs, I wouldn't have stayed in. So that is a success. I will state that the success of going to different schools, especially to Howard, because Howard was not part of the plan. I remember being on a campus, and someone that I was dating at the time took me on the campus, and and I was like, okay, I wasn't really thinking anything about Howard. I was in a PhD program. I left the PhD program, um, and so when I left, I knew I just wanted to do therapy, and I had someone was like, yo, you talk about social work, you do three different things. So it's like never thought. And so just apply to Howard. I was like, I don't have to go to Howard. I'm like, I don't why, but I did. That was a success because that taught me more about myself than what I ever could have possibly imagined. Because for a long time I struggled with writing, and it was through um, Ron Alexander Bryant, um, Rob Giles, and through Howard University that changed everything for the dynamic of me in writing. So I that was a success because it was me at a part of growth. It was a success for I guess for me with being able to go into the vet center. Um, because at the time I didn't think that I'd be able to get an internship working with veterans, and I cut my hair because I had locks, and I thought I had to change, not be who I thought I should be to conform to societal normatives. For me evolving and realizing that as in India says, I'm not my hair, and all these different things, I realized from that is that that's still a part of me, but it doesn't define who I am. So that was a success. So I think the biggest part for me, what I've learned is that the successes for me are, as I'm listening to you pose the question, my evolution. And my thing that I would want for people, because people, they see you in a certain light and that's what they remember you as and that's who you are. And they don't ever take the time to sit back and see that a person can evolve and a person can change, because just because you're not changing don't mean that the person doesn't change. And I wish that we gave people more grace to that and stop putting people into boxes. I'm tired of people putting me into a box as to who they think I am, because people limit me as to I feel they do. They limit me as to what they think that I'm able to bring to the table. And I wish that we wouldn't do that either. Stop putting people into these boxes of thinking that you're doing what? You're writing a book? That's cute. What? Who we do that at? Oh, you open up a practice? Oh, that's real cute for you. Okay. That's cute for you to make the comment.
Oh,
Oh, you open up a nonprofit. Hmm. Yeah. Well, how long do you think that's going to be before you really get it up and running? I mean, but that's cute. So I wish you would do better with not saying things are cute or minimizing people's, their dreams or the things that they're trying to work on, because I feel like the whole book itself, it was cute. But the
100%.
reality of like, yeah, it's just really unfortunate. But you know what? I celebrate the wins. The win is the book is here.
Yes.
So the win is I feel that it's going to be a great contributor to children and family to help them navigate grief, loss, and trauma. The truth
Well,
is that it was a 3 year process of putting love into this book, and
mhm.
I do look forward to seeing the impact of the book and everything that comes with it, including Spirit the mascot. So that's the truth. And so I hope that people will stop trying to put people into boxes.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, the next time you come to the show, because I'm sure that you'll be back, but I will have those capabilities of showing those that have not seen that wonderful commercial that you created.
Mm. Do you
Um,
know that wonderful commercial that I created got
uh,
no acknowledgement?
what do you mean?
Yeah, that wonderful. I don't even know if people actually tuned into this or not, but I just said the wonderful thing that I took time to create
Hmm.
got no acknowledgement at all.
Really? Well, well, as you say, you can't speak for other people, but I will tell you, the next time you come to the show, we will definitely have that thing ready to be queued up and so forth because I'm learning a whole lot more about this platform because I just found out that some of those things, you can actually do. And so the next time I want to have that opportunity to show everybody what spirit does and how spirit looks and everything. I really love that commercial. I really
Thank
did.
you. That really makes me. That really fills my heart. All I ever want is for people to, whatever it is that I'm putting into the world, that they're able to take that and to use it how they need to use it. Because again, one thing is a lot about psychoeducation, also about empowerment, but people have to be in a place to receive that. And like I said, I don't feel right now that people are in a place to, people gravitate towards the things going to make them laugh or to avoid or to escape the things that they don't want to deal with. Nobody really trying to have no real conversation about a lot of stuff that they know they need to work on. It's easier to let's go to the video with the kid that fell off the bike and bumped his head up against the wall. We gonna look at that. I ain't trying to see anything that talks about how you treat women or children being abused and how it affects their mental health. Nobody got time for that. They not trying to see that.
Well, we're growing an audience where there's going to be plenty of people that wants to see that kind of stuff because it's all about the growth. And you're right, some people don't grow, but I mean, I'm not going to say that that's for all, but I agree with you though.
Well,
Um,
somebody told me that everything is not for everyone, and I received that. So it's what it is.
how do you believe entrepreneurship can be a vehicle for social and economic empowerment, particularly within marginalized communities?
I think entrepreneurship can be great for marginalized communities. Somebody said something to me recently. Some is Mr. Muhammad. He talked about, a lot of people are turning to entrepreneurship, I know within our local area. So, and he was saying, well, you have a whole, because a lot of people turn into nonprofits. And so his statement was, when you are influx with a lot of people that are within a nonprofit, it can be detrimental because now you have all these different nonprofits that are within a marginalized community that are competing for funds, for grant money, and
Mhm.
everybody's not going to get the grant. So if you are have everybody's doing a nonprofit and they're all fighting to get these like specific grants, then it becomes a disservice to like the community because you have the vision of vision mission of what it is that you're trying to do within like the community. But most nonprofits do not have the funding, they don't have the structure or the board members in place that will be able to to actually make the phone calls or call different people to do the fundraisers and stuff like that that is able to keep the actual nonprofit afloat. So he's also talking about one, that part, but then also the dismantling of nonprofits because of the piece being that you're competing with so many different people. One, to get a grant, and some have similar missions. So what that looks like when you have conflicting missions of things that you're trying to do. For profit. You have a lot of people now that are becoming for profit. They are realizing they're really taking a chance on themselves. They're betting on themselves. And I think that's the thing. I love that. The fact that we as a people are beginning to see that we are multifaceted. We have many different things that we can do. We don't have to be limited. And I think it is a true, about who you know. And based on who you know, I think a lot of times can open doors for people. I've never been a person, I think, for the most part, people gravitated towards like, oh, we're gonna help you. It's never been me. But for some people, they have the gift of gab, and based on that gift of gab, gets them into doors and gets them access to things, and I think that's amazing. If you get able to get that access. So, but I do see that, yeah, that can be a benefit, for us and marginalized, people to give them hope. If you have a dream, and something that you're good at. And I feel like the Chinese and other cultures, they encourage their children. They see something in them, and they will cultivate it. You what you know how to flip, or You was 2 when you rolled over on your head and did a handstand. We're putting you in gymnastics. That's gonna be your thing. Yeah, you're gonna do gymnastics. You're gonna be good at that, and that's what they nurture. And I feel if we nurtured those things within our children and just people in general, because everybody has a niche or something that they're good at. Um, but if we nurtured that, that's the empowerment. But I also look on the opposite end of that, dealing with the state of the world today, they're not trying to see us empowered. But that means that we have to believe in oneself and we have to believe in each other as a community and empowering and uplifting one another to let each other know that continue on that track, continue in that journey. Nothing worth having is going to be easy. That's a real thing, and it's true. I believe that to be true. It does require work. I was reminded of that yesterday. It's like, think somebody's going to spoon feed you? And I was like, you eat something for free? That's not how this works. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, now that means I have to keep pushing forward, regardless of the non-comments or the non-likes or the non-shares. I still have to continue this because it's bigger than whoever's not liking and sharing it, or whoever's not acknowledging it. Because at some point, somebody's going to see it, and once they see it, then it will get to hopefully where it needs to get to.
Well, I want to ask you this, as a follow up to this question. When it comes to entrepreneurship, how does mental health play into the success of an entrepreneur?
I think it plays majorly into it. If you have a, if okay, if you don't, I think it plays a major part. Here's why. I think as human beings, we're born into trauma, right? Based on us being born into trauma, it formulates our thoughts, everything about how we show up. It formulates our patterns and our learned behaviors, how we show up. So here's this dream that you have, you know, the dream that you have, somebody's telling you you're stupid. You're already being told you're stupid because you're emotional. You're being told you're stupid because you want to do these particular different things and nobody believes in. It's like, I wanted to be a dancer, right? But my mother was like, "Yeah, you're not doing that. You're not doing that. That's not for men. It's not. We're gonna do that." But that's one of my passions. But on the opposite end of that, and not cultivating and nurturing one's beliefs and passion, then you don't allow them to believe in themselves. I think the most powerful song that I heard in my lifetime was "Believe in Yourself" with the Lena Horne song in The Wiz. And those words are resounding for me because it's the truth. It's like, if you don't believe in yourself, like other people can actually believe in you, but you have to have a village that's going to really believe in you, then how do you actually grow and to accomplish the things that really that your heart desires? Even for the whole premise of Disney, it's the fantasy or the dream that's driving that. So I think people have to be encouraged on that, to dream, whatever that may be for you.
Hmm. That's actually that's deeper than I could have imagined. But I definitely understand that answer. But it almost sounds like, and tell me if I'm interpreting this correctly or not. But it sounds like that non-supportive families can actually stunt the growth of the child from the beginning, to where the direction that that child takes, lessens the chances of actually moving out to do something really positive. But if they do, it's a by chance situation that will be successful.
So I want to add to that. It's the system. So if the system itself doesn't make you feel that you're worthy, that you matter, that that you can accomplish these things, and if you don't know who you are, the whole premise really is about if you don't know who you are, if you itself don't know who you are, identity, worth, and value, how can you then trust in self to believe that you can accomplish these things that may be dreams for you? Especially when you have a system that is telling you that's not something that like you're supposed to do. You got a family system telling you that. You have, work systems, school systems telling you what you can and cannot do, and what's actually plausible or feasible. You had a community limiting you within the ideas of what you may think is tangible to be reality for you because crabs in a barrel mentality. So I believe systems play a major role in, diminishing one's dream because again, what you see is what you believe to be true, and especially if somebody's telling you the same thing, then it becomes inherently in you to where you diminish your dream. I remember meeting with a client. She had a dream to become a writer. She's a really good writer, but yet she said that when she was a little girl, some teacher said something to her, and after she said that, that she would never make it out of the project, like make it out of projects, and she would never account to being anything. That's the running dialogue that stays in her head. She was told by a boyfriend that she would never be anything, in life. So if these people are telling you this stuff, then the inner child, that's what the inner child feels, and the inner child becomes an adult, and now that adult believes that to be true. So now to diminish this idea of an untruth, we all have the capacity to do anything we put our minds to.
That's true.
That's a hard thing, to do that when that's the inner voice that you hear on a constant. That's stupid. You got the devil on one hand and the angel on another one. Most times the devil is having the conversation.
That's a lot. Um, what role do mentorship and networking play in your entrepreneurial journey? And how do you cultivate meaningful connections?
My attempt to cultivate meaningful relationships is trying to be me. I think that's important for people. I'm a hope for people to be able to see you for who you are. Now let me expound. Everybody's not going to be able to see you for who you are because most people will formulate their own ideas as to who they think you are, and that's not who you are. Just in the moment you walk through the door, they're already assessing you and trying to put you into a box. So understanding that, I know that the only thing I can be is me. And however people perceive that is however they may like perceive it, but I just try to be me as authentically who I can be as being me. And trusting in myself to be vulnerable enough to expose, those layers of myself to people, and not meaning they're always going to be receptive. But I say that most people that mentorship pieces or cultivating work-like relationships is just again this means being me, um, and me meeting people where they are. I have no issue with that for myself for meeting people where they are, but I think for the most part, I think just in general, people just have it's a trust piece. I think people just have sometimes trusting and seeing if they see certain things, sides of you as seen as being really you. Like I have a really big heart, so and it shows in things that I do. But I think for the most part, you both have to be in a space to be able to receive each other, meet each other where you are, whether it be through mentorship, because I have, my mentees that I've had is just meeting them where they are, and then again, that's building the trust. And it's no different than meeting someone that I'm trying to be partnership with, again, meeting them where they are and being honest with my truth and receptive to what they're saying is being their truth, and making a decision of whether or not those things coincide so we can work together.
Um, what advice would you offer aspiring entrepreneurs, especially those from underrepresented backgrounds, based on your experiences?
Don't let anyone diminish your dream. Don't let anybody ever make you feel like what you're thinking is being something that you want to do is stupid. Trusting yourself and yeah, trusting your inner self, trusting your inner spirit of whatever's driving you. If you're being called to do something, follow it, and trust in it.
Let's say always trust that first mind, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Then we go into you being an author. Before I ask you these questions, can you tell us how many books have you written? And what genre are you writing?
Sure. Well, there's only one book that just came out, and that is The Adventures of Draco and Spirit the Dragonfly, and it's called Becoming from Grief to Hope. And that's my first book, and it's about helping. It's a children's book from ages 5 to 12, and it is helping children to navigate grief, loss, and trauma. The theme of the story is based on COVID-19. Um, the storyline is about a little boy that is navigating COVID-19, but then also learns family history that connects him to a guardian named Spirit that he eventually becomes. So it's really just it is a becoming of age story. So it is a series, the first of it. And the second book that will be coming out will be more, it's an adult version, but adult book, and the book will be called Sir Trust a Lot.
Mm.
And that's more of a medieval themed book that has satire and comedy in it, but just from like a medieval perspective that explores trust. Hmm.
Mm. Now that's gonna be something. Ooh. So, as an author, what themes or messages do you aim to convey through your writing, and why are they important to you?
Well, this particular book, again, the whole premise, is spirit being a beacon of hope, and so it really just is about empowerment. Just the power of embracing hope for change and in self and things around you. Um, so I just felt that that was something that was important. For the second book, um, a lot of times when I write, I mean, first time people will probably hear this if they're listening to this. I write based on things that I experience in people or things that I hear. And so sometimes the second book is more about personal experiences that I've had that I'm translating into a book. And I'm using satire and comedy to present the different things that have transpired, but it will be in an impactful way to make people think about how they show up in the world. So both of those are about how we show up in the world as people.
Hmm. How has storytelling been instrumental in your advocacy efforts, both in mental health and other areas?
Um, I think it's been empowering. One, to be able to write the stuff that I've written. Um, I remember Rob Giles told me, I was trying to navigate me trying to write. He was like, you need to tune into your, like, you need to find your voice. So always tell me that, hey man, Rob, you need to find your voice. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Looking at they're crazy. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that looks like. But it did, like I said, it happened to have to help me realizing what that voice was. So the voice now within my writing is, again, it's about, the advocacy of diminishing the idea of this bad thing about mental health, but also challenging people again on how they continue to show up in the world. So it's been able to afford me the opportunity to come up with creative ways to be able to tell a story or a narrative, but also create something within a narrative, whether it be through video or whether it be through visual, that tells a story that hopefully pulls people in to make them reflectively look at themselves as to how you should really showing up in the world. It's something that you really identify. If they identify with that, they may have had a childhood experience and like, I never thought of it that way. Just giving people another perspective of how they think. A big part is about how they're showing up.
Mm. So, when you say in the book that's coming out now, how it's there's got personal experiences in them and in it and so forth, can you tell me with those experiences, have they made a positive change in your life, or have they made a positive influence in your life?
Actually, both influence and change. COVID-19, people ain't talking about the things, the impact of COVID-19, but I'm telling you, if it was not for me being able to write, um, I don't know where I'll probably be. Like, it was a lot. You know what I'm saying? Being a therapist, seeing all these people coming in,
Mhm.
helping them navigate themselves while also trying to keep yourself balanced, and seeing all the catastrophes and all of the deaths and all of the just the heartache and pain from people. It has to, as a therapist, it has to be when you any therapist probably will probably, I don't know if they would agree with this or not. You have to have a way to for outlet. You have to be a way to be able to get this stuff out. And so writing this book was that.
Mhm.
Creating of these characters was that. So it's just that, the book was cathartic, and also reflective. So mhm.
I want you to help me with this. You know, during that time when you're talking about COVID, it's like the original was the original launch time of America in Black and White. This was back in 2020,
Mhm.
and you know, once it got started, you know, it was like, you know, things weren't going well or whatever have you. COVID comes in, and when it swoops in, like everything like just changed completely, like at the drop of a dime, right? Now I'm sitting here in the house, and while I'm sitting in the house, and I'm thinking like, well, excuse my French, but how in the hell am I going to get this done the way I want to get it done? How should I do this? Was I really doing it right? You know, I mean, I can't see clients for doing bookkeeping and taxes and so forth. And so I resulted to being in the house like so many other folk. That is eating food and getting fat. Let me tell you something. To think about this as an aftermath, because it's like what I thought about like some years later now, even though COVID is still here, it hadn't gone nowhere, but it's just not where it
Mhm.
was. But after that fact, and like now just finding ways now and just coming up with creative ways of being able to maneuver. Do you think that that's a smart and clever thing to do, or do you think that that's probably going to result in the same but a different way? But a different way. I'm talking about as far as like
You
the COVID situation,
say finding smart ways to move. What do you mean by that?
maneuvering. You know, like when I say when COVID came down, everything shut down. So
Mhm.
basically, it was like only one way to communicate, and that was through Zoom or these video calls.
Mhm.
There was no out there, no outside maneuvering, no none of that. But now we have creative ways of doing that now. Do you think that that's smart? Or do you think that that's a possibility that it could lead to the same thing if COVID was to ever re energize and come back to the point of where it was?
Believe, yeah, again, it's like COVID afforded opportunities for people to be able to communicate in different ways that they hadn't,
Mhm.
right? So, to your point, Zoom, video, phone calls were like increasing where people communicating. I just think it changed the narrative of like communication and interconnectedness, but also on the opposite end, it also created isolation, avoidance, and comfort zones of people just, doing things or feel like their comfort or lack thereof comfort. So, there are pros and cons to it. But to your question on, yeah, it'd be easy for me to simulate to go back to doing that because it's something that worked, right, for them.
Mhm.
And based again, patterns of our behavior, what they know based on experiences, led patterns in my behavior, how we show up. No different than, when I say, I was talking with somebody recently and they were being very candid with me and it was like, I still struggle just to leave my house. And I was like, really? I was like, yeah, I really struggle to leave my house. And it's weird, to go out, and I feel weird when I'm around too many people and I'm guarded and I have to sit in a certain spot. That's PTSD. We ain't had no real conversation about none of that though. The DSM-5 says that, 1 day to 30 days, of a major traumatic event is acute stress. Anything after 30 days is considered to be PTSD. So we were dealing with almost 2.5 years of dealing with a situation that was a pandemic that now leads to isolation, avoidance, anger, irrational thoughts, near other different things that fall underneath the guise of criteria for PTSD. But of course, we're not going to acknowledge that because of the other negative connotation is that PTSD correlates with shell shock, and that's with the military. So I'm not crazy like these military members, so we're not going to associate the PTSD to the world experience PTSD. That would be too much like rape. So yeah.
Mm. Can you discuss your writing process and any rituals or practices that contribute to your creative output?
The funny thing about this with this book, so one, I want to also acknowledge Michael Gadsden, another therapist that he had written earlier chooses book, phenomenal, phenomenal book on PTSD. And then recently also has written an anxiety book too. Just phenomenal, again, for helping kids navigate through like anxiety. And also Carolyn Hutchison, because she wrote also a memoir of her life, and kind of for an opportunity to read that. And I think those two were major inspirations to let me know that it's something that was plausible. Wanted to write a children's book, didn't talk a lot about it, but they were two pillars with that. So the writing process, but I'm just want to smile about it, is because when I decided I wanted to write this children's book, I had talked to my spouse about it, and it was like, okay. And so I wanted to write something about COVID-19. I was very vague about it. So then when we went on a trip to the Dominican Republic, and I was started writing the things for like the story, and I was presenting it to a couple of friends, and trying to get their input from it. And so that was the beginning of it. And I got input from them about different things, and it led to expounding more on like the story. So that was the beginning of it. Was just COVID-19, um, being on this trip, finding out that 5 kids that I heard about that had committed suicide, and it was like, okay, this is not cool. And it's an outlet. I needed an outlet, and that was again my outlet for that, for writing.
Mm. So, what challenges have you faced as an author, and how have you overcome them to continue pursuing your passion for writing?
My challenge as an author is getting people. My challenge as an author is feeling that people don't believe in what I'm doing. My challenge as an author is that feeling like the underdog, and where people are like, yeah. When you have people that think that you're on a certain level, um, and you show them something different, that's not what they know of you. Um, yeah, it's the image of how people see you, and it is the boxes that people put you into, and it's trying to debunk whatever these boxes are that people try to put you into to see you as someone valid, um, or whatever your passion, your dream is being valid. So that is my challenge. And even though the book launches on the 23rd of this month, um, it's my internal dialogue that is also another thing that is a challenge. So me challenging my internal dialogue um, on how this would be received when it actually worldwide people get to experience it. So,
For the book launch, are you going to have like a big book signing? How is that going to work?
so currently, no, it's not a book signing in place. It's more or less like it's the launch. I mean, like Book Baby is the publisher, and they will be launching it through like Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, Target, internationally certain spaces where people have access to be able to get the book. So launch that way. Physical launch of the book, I mean, I have, because I have physical copies, I have, done pop-ups, events to, as a vendor, to be able to promote the book that way. And still in works, we're trying to work with libraries and schools to be able to bring spirit into the schools, the mascot, and talk about, read the story, but then also to talk about the importance of it and why this conversation is important. Because a lot of times people are walking around numb, they're numbing. So that's what we learn to do. That's part of PTSD too, is this idea of being able to disassociate and to numb oneself, to not deal with stuff. You see so much stuff, it's like it doesn't phase you anymore. That was the whole premise for when I thought about my own thing with disassociation and numbing, of having to deal with seeing all these dead bodies and having to comfort these families that were coming in. And there's no level of comfort a lot of times you can give someone in the midst of seeing your son and your daughter come back from war, dismantled, disassembled, sometimes not even be able to remember what they look like. And we still had to do the mission. So
So, do they, can people, besides those places where you say they're gonna launch the book, I mean, are you selling the book on the website?
So yeah, I'm selling a book on my website, www.spiritthedragonfly.com. So it is on the website, also with other merch. There is also an emotional support plushie that is out. I have kids t-shirts, I have adult t-shirts, I have cups, I have magnets, I have keychains. So I have a litany of things for the empowerment of hope for people that way is an actual reminder. These are things too that was given out to the veterans, to remind them that they mattered. So I work at the VA hospital. So my thing is like, how do I empower people to let them know that they matter? So when I think about hope, I think too about you matter. So yeah, but those are the means of being. If they wanted to, after 23rd, you can just literally type in the book "Becoming" in my name, and it should pop up. But if not, you want to go to the website www.spiritthedragonfly.com. You'll be able to see the page, the mission, what the book is about, um, and more to come from that.
Final question. What advice would you give aspiring authors who aspire to make a meaningful impact with their work? And how can they navigate the publishing industry effectively?
Um, give real thought to what it is on what you want to present to the world. And based on that, create what you need to create from it. Everybody's creative style is going to be different. I know for me, when I started creating, I actually started with the characters. I didn't start writing. It was when I need to visually see the characters before I wrote. But whatever your thing is that is your muse or motivation to be able to get you to write, turn to that as being the thing that you do, whether it be if you need to write a rough draft or whether it be to maybe have the characters drawn out, follow what that is for you. But the bigger part is like, what do you want people to get from it, when they're reading it? I think that those things are important. What was the other part of the question you asked me? I'm sorry.
Yes, that last part was, uh, and how can they navigate the publishing industry effectively?
So there are many different ways to be able to publish your stuff. I just chose Book Baby because I didn't I wanted to make sure that somebody else just kind of handled the different things. But you have Amazon, you got Amazon Kindle, you have many different forms and other publishing companies. Just do your research. I think it's important to do the research on finding the best possible outlet that is going to fit what you're trying to do. Also budget wise, because money wise too, you may have a certain type of budget. So based on that budget will also be the driver on who you may go to for doing your publishing. You may decide to do it all yourself. You can do that. So it's just that I think it's defining What is the best means for you to accomplish the goal that like you're trying to accomplish? Mm.
And you said it's called Book Baby.
Yeah, book baby. This is what I
Okay.
use. Mhm.
And is there any other thing you is there anything else you'd like to drop to our audience this evening, like your contact information or some words of wisdom?
So contact information is going to be the website. Best way to get in contact with me. Has some information there. Also shows me being on Facebook, Instagram, um, LinkedIn, and TikTok. So if you need to contact me, there'll be the ways for you to contact me. But my inspirational words from the day is from Janet Jackson. And the actual, and one that I always say to people is, in complete darkness, we are all the same. It is only your knowledge and wisdom that separates us. Don't let your eyes deceive you. I think that's a powerful quote because, I think a lot of times to the point of we put each other into these boxes, and I don't think that we realize that we're more alike than we are different, which means that we don't give as much benefit of the doubt as we should towards how we treat one another. Well, one, treating self, but also treating other people. So be mindful again on how you choose to show up in the world to other people, because you never know what someone is going through.
Well, I'll tell you in closing, I'm glad that everyone was able to join us this evening. Mo, I appreciate you for letting us have this opportunity of having you here on the show. Also, I want to let you know that every time I talk with you, it's always enlightening, and I love it each and every time. So I'm looking forward to having you back on the show, and of course, just continuing the networking itself. And so, with that being said, again, thanks everybody for watching. Those that are watching on the YouTube channel, if you would please hit the notifications and subscription button, I would really appreciate it. And again, thank you all and have a great evening.